Big Conversations, Little Bar, with your hosts Randy Florence and Patrick Evans, featuring candid conversations with the Coachella Valley's most interesting and influential people. Pull up a bar stool and enjoy Big Conversations, Little Bar.
I want to welcome everybody to another edition of Big Conversations, Little Bar. My name is Patrick Evans, and we are podcasting from Little Bar in Palm Desert, California. If it's a little noisier than normal, it's because Skip Page, who is the owner of Little Bar, is hosting a watch party. The Firebirds are in the Calder Cup playoffs.
Go Firebirds.
Go Firebirds, our local AHL team. They're in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and there's a watch party going on. So it might be a little noisier, but that's okay because the guest we have today is
noisy,
and he's going to overtalk the party. My co-host, my good friend, is Randy Florence.
You notice how it takes him a while to get that good friend part out? My co-host and good friend.
I had to think about it for a minute. You know, I just learned something about you. You've been telling me for several weeks that you have been marrying various people. And I thought you were a polygamist, but you're actually an officiant. You just did a wedding at Melvin's.
I did.
That's all you had to say about it? That's it?
Wow.
Melvin's.
This show is great. This show, wow.
Bill Geddie, our guest, is going to cancel us. Our guest today.
Wow. No. I want to respond to that.
Okay.
I did a wedding at Melvin's, and I got to see Patrick Evans sing to a group of 2 people in the bar that night.
That was great.
That was fantastic.
That was terrific. Let me get to our
Thanks
guest.
for inviting me.
Yeah. Our guest just left. Bill Geddie really needs no introduction, but this gentleman was the producer of the Barbara Walters specials for 30-plus years.
Yes.
He was the creator of the television program The View.
Barbara and I did that together, but yes.
And various other television projects with ABC for many, many years.
Right.
And
10 Most Fascinating People for, 25 years or something like that. Yeah.
And some of the most watched television that was really ever made. I mean,
it was. Yeah. I think you have to go to maybe Ed Sullivan might beat us on that, but something like Lucy, things of that nature. But yeah.
When I talk to people about, and I've known you for a few years, and I feel very privileged to call you a friend, but you're the guy that when Barbara said, "Well, I want to do an interview with Ronald Reagan,"
right?
When you got those folks on the phone, they said yes.
Well, people got the sense that everybody said yes. Most people said no. Most people said, "I'm not ready for that yet. This is not my moment. In a few years, I'll be ready." And a lot of people we didn't end up doing because of that. But it's very interesting to sit down with Barbara Walters. You had to feel, whether you were a celebrity or politician or whatever, that all the stars were aligned. This was the moment to sit with her because you got the sense that she wasn't going to ask you 5 years from now or 2 years from now, or if this was too early, you ducked it, And so there are people we chased over the course of time, people that you would think would be nothing. You think, Jennifer Aniston.
You didn't get Jennifer?
Never got Jennifer Aniston. And I asked her once, she came on The View, a few times, and I said, "What's the deal?" She says, "I'm not old enough yet." And now she's too old. So, no, I'm sorry. That's not right. I'm very old. It's just a joke. Just a joke.
That's going to be another hour and a half podcast,
right? All right, so I want to start with, we're already kind of into it, but I have this one question for you. And you and Barbara crafted The View and created this show that is still relevant and interesting and sometimes controversial. Mm-hmm. My question to you is, if you had to get rid of one of the co-hosts of The View, who is it and why is it Joy Behar?
Well, Joy there wouldn't
next week on the podcast.
There would be no View without Joy Behar. Joy Behar was one of the instrumental pieces of that show. It makes perfect sense that she's still there. It's a completely different show now. Let me. When we were starting out, the idea was that Barbara comes on, a few days a week, and then Joy would take her place. On the day she was. So Barbara would do, 3 days a week or 2 days a week, and Joy would do the other days. And little by little, people said, "Well, we like Joy. Why isn't she just on every day?" And so we put her on every day. And then all of a sudden, Barbara's like, "There are too many of us here." So off away goes, Debbie Matenopoulos, who I'm still very close to today, and I don't think we'd have been as successful without Debbie. I know that the people don't think I'm sincere about that, but it was a big part of it. A lot of people's dislike of Debbie because she was so young in that group, I think brought us a lot of audience. She kept saying things that people went, "Oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Is this what the younger generation is like?" And it's like, yeah, that's what they're like. Yeah. And so I thought that was very good for us. I haven't seen, it's a fascinating thing with The View. I haven't seen The View since I left 10 years ago.
Really?
I have not seen it. I sort of made a decision, I did it for 17 years.
Wow.
So I guess it's not 7, I guess it's 9 years ago that I left, if I remember correctly. And I thought, but because of social media, I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah, you managed to get.
And when we first started, we fought to have somebody write about us. And if somebody wrote once a week something, even if it was nasty, we're like, thank goodness somebody wrote. And by the time I left, every day there was 1 or 2 items or something about the show. This is 9 years ago. Today, there must be 30 or 40 items a day about the show. You wouldn't believe what Whoopi said about wanting to be on, I don't know, whatever it was, Family Feud or whatever it is. What's the show she wants to take Pat Sajak's place
she wants
on.
Wheel of Fortune. Everybody
says
says Ryan Seacrest is getting that.
And it's not going to be Whoopi probably because, she's my age. So they're probably going to go, how many years has she got? We want somebody.
But how cool would it be to have Whoopi Goldberg doing the Wheel of Fortune?
It'd make perfect sense. But you know what? It's an ageist world. Probably Ryan Seacrest is probably too old in their mind.
Wow.
But I don't know where I'm going with this. But over the course of time, when we started that show, and this is kind of what I find fascinating is the numbers. And for those of you who don't care about how many people watch television or whatever, I don't know what to do. It's an obsession with me. How many people watch things now versus then? When we first started that show, the goal was to find 1 million women 18 to 49 every day, and 1.5 million women 25 to 54. Those were the numbers that made money. And so every Thursday we would get this sheet and we'd go like, we only had 950,000 women 18 to 49, but we got our 1.5 million on 25. And by the time I left, we were cranking out that number. We also had, 4 million a day, 3.5, 4 million people a day watching the show.
That's a huge number.
We had, I'm getting to this. Hang on a second. We also would have, in the big moments, Obama wins the election, Obama comes on the show, whatever it is, that was really the sweet spot for us, sometimes 6 million people a day. And this is nothing compared to Oprah was pulling in 10 or 12, Ellen's pulling in 7 or 8. All of this is happening just 10, 12, 13 years ago. All right. Today, The View is I think the number 1 talk show on television. It wasn't when I was there. The number 1 talk show on television. How many people watch it? 2 million. How many?
Daily.
Yeah, 2.25. What about women 18 to 49? We're supposed to get 1 million today. 150,000.
150,000? How
about women 25 to 54? We're supposed to get 1.5 million. 250,000 maybe. So my point is, and I realize that there are other ways to monetize things today. That like I said, there are 20, 30, there's social media, but the actual numbers are so much smaller. This business, the traditional business that we know and love, is dying. There's no question about it. Doesn't mean it won't be replaced by something. I have ideas about what it will be replaced by, but that there's no way to monetize something that small appropriately. So why are these shows? I'll give you another example. I realize I'm monologuing here, but the hell with it. I started a show 3.5 years ago, called Tamron Hall. Mm-hmm. I went to New York. We launched Tamron Hall. We got, on our launch day, on that Monday, we got a 1.4 rating. The network, which was ABC, said, it's all right, you're going to have to do better than that. I think over the course of the year, we got a 1.2 over the course of that year, 3 years ago. I left for reasons I will not get into. Today, today, that show just got re-upped for a 4th season. What is their number? 0.7.
Less than 1.
Yeah. 0.8 at the best, but 0.7, 0.8.
And
what's happening?
And the network is...
You're a student of television. You all are. What's happening?
Well, there's 1,000 other places to get what you
Okay.
wanted in instant.
Okay, but they're still on the air. Can't be making money. So what's happening?
What's your theory?
So, yeah.
Well, I think my theory is that they're placeholders. Till
For what?
everybody figures out what the hell's going on. They can't figure out. They're more afraid of nothing. So what they're doing is they're cutting budgets everywhere. And I don't know about Tamron. I have no idea. But let's say, and I know in a lot of other shows, they're cutting these budgets. And these budgets weren't great to begin with. So cutting staff, cutting budgets, and saying, all right, you get another year. We hope you turn it around. I think that these networks are going to be up for sale.
Really?
I think they're all going to be up for sale.
Who's going to buy a business model that's not working?
Someone who thinks they know better.
Sounds like what the Saudis did with
there are a
golf.
lot of exactly.
So Elon Musk is going to buy
Somebody who thinks that they're a lot smarter. Yeah, I mean, there's always somebody like that, isn't there?
There's always.
Yeah. There's somebody who thinks they're smarter and that these things have been run poorly and they have a solution. I'll give you another example because I can't stop talking. The other night, 2 nights ago or something? I don't know when this runs. The Tony Awards ran.
Right.
The Tonys had like 4 million people watch it, and they were bragging about it. They were saying it's so much better than last year and the year before. It's like, really, how terrible must it have been? 4 million people. I mean, those are like daytime numbers 8 years ago.
Yeah, that's a very low number for a primetime award show. I always think that the Tonys lag behind because so many people don't see plays that
Maybe, but when I was growing up in Oklahoma City, where we didn't see plays either, we sat down and watched the Tonys because we wanted to learn about it. And they did pretty well considering all of that. But here's what happens is, I feel like I've seen the Tonys because I saw the clip where Sam Jackson rolled his eyes or whatever the hell he did when he didn't win. I saw the clip where, my point is, we don't see them, we see clips from them. They're disseminated through social media, through I don't know, whether it is Instagram or the news feeds or whatever it is. We see the highlights. We don't have to see anything really anymore.
Yeah, if you're on Instagram, you're going to see pretty much the best moments of virtually anything if you scroll long enough. But let me go back to something. You said at a 0.7 or a 0.8, a show like the Tamron Hall Show isn't making money. But doesn't it?
I assume it isn't making money. I'm not sitting there with the coffers, but I don't know how it could be.
Because my supposition is always that they've just so drastically cut budgets, and they're doing things so bare bones that it's doing better than break.
It's easier to be profitable.
Well, it's going to do a little better than break even because I really think if it's really losing money, those shows have to go away.
Well, first of all, let me start with this. I'm not talking about the quality of anything.
Right.
I haven't seen that show. It may be the best show on television. I have absolutely no idea.
It's not the best show on television.
But I don't know anything about it. It could be fine. I just know that I'm just telling you the truth about where we were and where we are now, and I can't quite make heads or tails of it.
Well, but you were there in I think a golden age of television.
Yeah, but I'm not talking. I realize that when I started doing the Barbara Walters specials, 40 million people tuned in every night to see a Barbara Walters special.
40 million?
3 or 4 times a year, 40 million people. 40 million. By the time I left, when we did Fascinating People, I think was our last one, I think that last Fascinating People got 7 or 8 million, and we thought that was great.
Wow.
So how much of the streaming platforms
I'm not talking about the quality. I'm not talking about me versus them.
No, you're talking about audience erosion.
I'm talking about a general erosion that has nothing to do with anybody's being good or bad.
Right, because you're the quality of the Barbara Walters.
It was always the same.
They were always great.
Yeah, they were always great.
Is it Netflix and Prime and Peacock?
Yes, it's all of that. But I don't. But the networks offer things that they're not offering, at least not yet. So I don't fully understand how it. what happens. I'll give you an example. I used to work on a show called PM Magazine.
Oh, yeah.
PM Evening Magazine. I worked in the national office in San Francisco for Westinghouse Television, Westinghouse Broadcasting. And PM Magazine was this great combo, which is the local shows paid to get a feed, and they hired their local hosts, so it would be Dick and Diane in Cleveland introing something that might be local in the middle of the show, which is, here's a great new pizza place that's opened up in Shaker Heights.
They fed a little local.
Yeah, they fed a little local. And I always thought, when that went away, I thought, I'll bet that comes back someday. Because the only way to combat this, and I think this really speaks to what you guys are doing, and particularly you, is that people are still interested in local. We're still interested in local weather. You do your cooking thing. You do this podcast. We're still interested in the new things that are opening up here. Somebody just bought a whole hotel group in Palm Springs the other day. Mm-hmm. That's a big thing around here. I was glued to that. Why? Because it's local. It's my town. All right? That's stuff. I think what will have to happen, and I don't know how it will happen, but what will have to happen is we're going to have to double down on local again. We're going to have to double down on these towns taking back programming time, doing inexpensive but meaningful programming for their communities.
Well, it's like sometimes you've been in some of our consulting meetings at the television station, because we always talk about what makes us relevant is the fact that we are local and that we are invested here. And I think the thing that we're seeing in local television, especially in smaller markets like ours, is the slow attrition. There used to be a network affiliate, one for each network in every town.
Yeah.
Now that's not the case.
That's exactly right.
And like under our roof, we have ABC, CBS, and the Fox affiliate.
Right.
And there is more consolidation going on at the local level, but it allows us to produce more local content.
Sure.
So local makes us relevant in television. I think one of the other things that makes things like ABC and CBS still relevant is we want to watch sports live.
Yes.
And no one wants to watch a game that's 3 hours old because you probably know the outcome. So it is local content and live sporting events.
No question. I am actually interested in the Coachella Valley Firebirds. I don't give a flip about hockey. Never cared about hockey. All of a sudden, we have a hockey team.
It's your team now.
It's my team. You know, it's the reason I follow the Texas Longhorns anything, because that's where I went to school. And I think that television is going to go that way. Not all of it, not Netflix, but you know, we're going to have to do something to find this audience again, don't you think?
Absolutely.
You know, there's a few things happening right now too that kind of seem to be coming together. You've got you talked about TV being in kind of a placeholder place right now. What is AI going to mean towards this? How many of them are just sitting back and saying, we're waiting a couple of weeks and then we won't even need writers anymore, and that's where we're going to head?
Well, you know, that's so out of my world. I don't understand any of that at all. I'm sort of too old to believe that will be real. I just don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to me, and I think that we're in a personality business. And I don't trust the weather until I hear from Patrick. You know, it's that's just the way.
By the way, it's going to be hot.
Yeah, it's going to be hot.
It's not going to be that.
But I'll tell you this. Right now, I'm sitting here thinking, why is it so cool into June? Why is it this cool? And I'm sitting with you, and I'm sitting here thinking, that's really what I want to talk to you about. Why is it that I sat out for hours this morning and could have used a little blanket? You know what I'm saying? Doesn't make any sense. What's happening? That's local news. That's local. I want to hear about that. Do you see what I'm saying?
I get it, and I depend on it because obviously that's where I draw my paycheck until this podcast hits a big. You know,
until it ruins your entire career.
Well, it could go either way on that. The thing about AI, and I think Bill kind of made this point, local television, we do a lot of research about why people watch what they watch. And some of it is content, but a lot of it, that gets unsaid is I watch Channel 3 because I'd like to sit down and have a beer with John White.
That's right.
He seems like a great guy.
Yeah, he isn't, by the way.
I
Terrible man.
You and I know him
Awful.
for years.
Awful.
And,
Just a horrible human being. But yeah, I know what you're saying. No, I'm kidding. I like
Well,
him
if
a
it
lot.
wasn't for Patrick's sausage, I wouldn't be sitting here.
That's-
that may be
Hey,
going
what?
2 different
Hello.
episodes.
That's all different.
Hey, now.
But the point about,
There's my Johnny.
the point about AI is this. You will... Things gone off the track so early.
Wow.
You could have AI writing content, but people still like to see their local... I'm like, at some point on a weekend, I'm going to show up at Costco, and people are going to come and say hi. AI is never going to do that.
That's true.
Never going to do that.
Yep.
So, I dabbled with that Chat GPT, and I asked it to write a love poem. It was really bad, and it misspelled my wife's name twice. So I can't send that to her. So the technology's not there yet. But
I got a really good picture of Han Solo on the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise, though. That was awesome.
so, tell me, Bill. Let's go back to those specials that you did, and you talked about the people you chased and never got, and I'm surprised that Jennifer Aniston said no.
Yeah.
Who were some of the other gotaways?
People like Brad Pitt and that's a crowd, like that sort of, there are people that I think that really, I understand it because there are certain people who are really good at this. George Clooney's very good at it. You can sit down, he's funny, he's quick. And there are people who know they're not that good at it, So, and I think that over the course of time, we have a lot of actors who are not very good interviews.
That is very true. Without a script,
there was
pretty
a time.
terrible.
There's no Katharine Hepburn. They're just not. They're not. Or Jimmy Stewart, or I'm trying to think. And Jim Garner. People who were just interesting in their own right. They were fascinating people. One of the first interviews we did was with Audrey Hepburn. She knew who she was and she knew what she wanted to say, and I thought that this is amazing. This was one of the first specials I did was Audrey Hepburn, and I thought this is going to be an amazing ride. But there was no other Audrey Hepburn. You know what I mean? Yes.
It was your first, and it was kind of the pinnacle.
Well, yes. In the sense of we did Sophia Loren. We did Lauren Bacall. We did some other big female names. But my point is, a lot of them were, and I'm not going to name names, but a lot of them were, star of the moment.
Yeah.
Big then, and it doesn't matter that much now.
Was that entirely for ratings?
I think that we thought, we saw the show as, it's about this moment in time.
Okay.
So it had to be that, and it wasn't always just celebrities. It wasn't celebrities. It wasn't always just actors. It was a variety of people, and one of the reasons that I came to Barbara with 10 Most Fascinating People, because that was my show. Came to her and I said, look, we're running out of these 3 people who can hold your attention for an hour, because you sit with that person, that 27-year-old actress, for 17 minutes on air, talking with her, and attention spans, they just can't hold it. So I said, what if we do this 10 Most Fascinating People thing, and the ones we don't get, we do a little ride around, and the ones we do get that are boring, they only have to be 3 minutes or 4 minutes.
And she loved that idea?
She loved the idea. And I said, and it allowed her to do things that she used to do, which she couldn't do anymore, like a politician, a business person, an athlete, people that you'd never give 20 minutes of a show to.
Right.
And that's the show that extended her run. She basically retired and did that show 2 more times with me. She said, I'm out of here, I'm out of the View, goodbye. Then she would call me, this is whatever this was, 8 years ago, and say, how about one more 10 Most Fascinating People? And I would fly into New York from out here in Rancho Mirage. I'd fly into New York and spend 3 months with her. We'd do another one. We'd kiss, goodbye. It's been great working with you. We're retiring now. So long. And she called me again and said, one last one. And so we did 2 more after her official retirement. She did 2 more 10 Most Fascinating People. So I was very proud of that because that was my show. I was very proud of it.
Was that your list, the guests?
Well, we put our heads together, You know, I mean, and the nice thing I thought about it was that if one of the people was, I don't know, the Pope, it didn't matter.
That's a good get.
You know, the Pope's not going to do the show. Nobody expects the Pope to do the show.
I don't know. This Pope,
maybe
he's ill now, but I think this Pope might
next week, Tuesday, isn't it? Here a little
Yeah,
bar?
he's going to do this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
We got Pope Francis.
Yeah,
Brushed up
he'll
on
love the little bar. But anyway, yeah, I mean that was special to me that she was willing to do that show 2 more times before the end.
And those were the 2 shows that she did basically coming out of retirement to do it.
Right. That's right. After she said goodbye to everybody, she's like, I think I can do that.
All right, let me ask you, you did, following that, Megyn Kelly famously left Fox News.
Yeah.
And kind of, I feel like maybe she burnt a bridge.
Well, first of all, when I did something with Megyn, she was still at Fox.
She was still at Fox.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I was at Fox there alone with, what's his name? Ailes.
Oh, Roger Ailes.
Roger Ailes, with the feet up in the Barca Lounge or talking with him for hours. We were right at the thick of things there in Fox when we did that special. They wanted her to do a special for Fox, prime time, not Fox News, Fox prime time.
Right.
That was sort of Barbara Walters-like.
Yes.
And I said, well, here's what we do. And I was very honest with them. I said, there is no Barbara left. You're not Barbara.
You're not Barbara.
And I love her. I love Megyn Kelly. Love her. I thought she was great. Thought she was fun to work with. I thought she brought good ideas to the table. I had a great time with her. But I think in retrospect, she should have said, here's what I do. Let's fashion a show around that instead of doing a show like Barbara did. But we did do Trump.
Yeah.
We did do Trump, and that was a big part of, I was on the phone a lot with Donald Trump about this, and he wanted to get out of it, and I said, no, I really need you to do this, and I said, it's going to be good, and it's going to be interesting, and blah, 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 and I don't think he was fine with the interview, and she caught some flack because people thought she wasn't tough enough on him.
Was it in studio?
We did the Trump interview. Oh, man, he knows as my brain is going. I can't remember where we did the Trump interview.
Well, I just wonder about the whole process of
how
that.
Surreal was that, working with he's become such a polarizing figure.
I think that what we did was, let me just finish this. What we did, I think we had a sort of set that we would build each time in a particular place in Midtown Manhattan and tried to make it look a little different. I don't know whether we were successful or not. We did Michael Douglas, who I've known forever and a great guy, and I think he was just doing me a favor. And he liked Megyn. He liked her. He thought she'd be interesting, and I think he was fine with that interview. And we did somebody else, and I can't remember anything. Anyway, wait. About Donald Trump? What about Donald?
Yeah, it's just been surreal, that whole experience. And to look at where he was then and where he is now, and it's kind of a bizarre
honestly,
thing.
I think that it never occurred to me that he'd be president. It just never occurred to me.
I think it never occurred to a lot of people.
I'd known him forever. Donald Trump was always very generous with his time with The View. When you called up and said, we're doing a funny bit on, Barbara is a short order cook, and would you show up and be a guest that she's serving? And he'd be like, sure, I love Barbara, whatever you need. No, that's kind of how I saw him. We had some terse words because Rosie said a number of nasty things about him, and he called me up and threatened to sue.
Well, that's unusual.
That wasn't fun. We got through it, but it wasn't fun. But overall, I thought he was kind of a fun guy to be around, and I appreciated what he did for the show. And he was one of those guys that you could, when you were in trouble, guest drop out. You could get him on the line
because he was
loved sitting around. So you say, look, I hate to say this, but Ray Liotta it can't be there today. So
standing in for Ray
standing
Liotta.
for Ray Liotta, and he says, "Well, I don't know. I've got a lot going on." I said, "You'd be really doing me a favor, Mr. Trump, if you just come over here. Well, I'll get you in and out of here. I'll send a car, do everything, whatever it takes. You'll be here for 15 minutes." And he'd be like, "All right, Bill. You know, anything for Barbara." And I always appreciated that about it. You know, but it never occurred to me that he would be president of the United States. Just never, ever occurred to me.
Have you? We don't do a political podcast, but I'm just curious. Have you had contact with him post?
No, nothing. No, it's that whole thing happened. That was the moment of my departure from that world.
Yeah.
So
he could really use an appearance on The View right about now.
I'm sure they'd have
He was
him.
in a Cuban restaurant today, so at least we know what he likes to eat. I want to go back to something.
We should point out that this podcast is being taped on the day that the former president was indicted on federal charges. So it's
more importantly, the Coachella Valley Firebirds are playing.
But it is more important.
I want to go back and ask something. You alluded to something earlier that I know was something you talked about a lot when you started with Barbara, which was she had to deal with some things around sexism and ageism and those kind of things. We're now just a few years past the whole Me Too thing.
Yeah.
Where are we compared to what you thought she was dealing with 30 years ago?
Well, I do think we've come a long way. I personally, and it may just be because I'm older, I personally think ageism is a bigger issue right now than sexism. But it may just be because I'm older. I don't know, and because I'm not a woman. And maybe if I was a woman, I'd look at this differently. But I did see her overcome a lot of stuff in terms of sexism. Ageism, not so much. She managed to stay on the air much longer than most people would have, particularly as a woman. Now, I'm not saying she didn't overcome. She overcame a lot of things. But whether it had a lasting impact on our society, I'm not so sure. She overcame ageism. Whether we are there, I don't know. And as people who live here in the Coachella Valley, I think it's a huge issue here. I think that let's face it, a lot of old folks here. You know, and some were pushed out before their time and are carrying grudges about it. There's no question about it.
I'll get over it.
Yeah, right,
relatively
exactly.
fast.
You know, I think that's something we as a nation have not really dealt with because people don't think it's that big a deal.
But
you know
it is
why?
a big deal because we're pushing out people with experience and talent and who have, I think there's a lot to be said for experienced individuals.
Look, all I can tell you is that when Pat Sajak, who just announced it, I think it was today or yesterday or whatever it was, that he was leaving, most people went, you've been there 41 years, get out. You know, it's enough already. And then when Whoopi said, I want to be the next host, I think a lot of people went, you're too old. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Too old.
Yep. Well,
it takes a lot of brain power to do that show. I'm sorry, but come on.
The brains is
it's
still
no Wheel
there.
of Fortune.
No, it is Wheel of Fortune.
It is.
Oh, it is. That's the one she's moving.
It's no
to.
Jeopardy.
It's no Jeopardy.
God, get the joke right.
That would have been a brilliant line, Randy.
It would have been fantastic.
We're going to have to edit that.
Yeah.
We'll fix it in post.
But I think young people are like I was when I was young. It's like, move it on. Let's clear it up at the top and make some room for the rest of us. I think there's a lot of that goes on.
There is. I had a friend, a guy named Whitey Mitchell, who was a very interesting character. The song "Stand By Me." Mm-hmm. The bass solo on that is Whitey Mitchell. The very beginning. He was a bass jazz player in New York, and he did that in several other recordings. Decided to come to Hollywood, and he wrote for great shows. He invented the line, "Sorry about that, Chief." He wrote for Get Smart.
Right.
But he told me when he reached 40 years old, the phone stopped ringing.
Right.
And he wrote
At 40.
At 40. He wrote Get Smart. He wrote All in the Family. He wrote all these great shows.
Yeah.
And then he came out and became a golf pro. I mean, he's one of these guys who was just too much talent.
Yeah.
But
The cone of silence thing probably
I
ruined
demand
his
the
career.
cone of silence. Not the cone of silence. I demand it.
So yeah, there is that, but I mean, I don't know that the line's 40 anymore, but it's probably 50.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think you're right. I mean, for women broadcast, you look like a guy like Hugh Downs, who stayed on the air for a very long time. Men in network television hold on longer.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, it's so hard to talk about because in a lot of things in television, you can fire people for pretty much any reason in TV. You know, it's not like a lot of other professions. It's like you're not bringing in the numbers. You know, it's just we're looking for a different audience. Or about, you know, there's so many things, so many reasons to give other than you're too damn old, right? There's so many other reasons.
That won't put you in court.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've worked closely, I work closely with David Hartman, you know, and all the various people who work, Joan London, all these people that I love David Hartman, admire David Hartman.
What a guy.
You get on the phone with David Hartman today, he's as sharp as ever. I mean, I don't think he wants to be doing that, but my point is, I think when he left,
he still wanted to be doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think he left for a good reason. I think he left on his own terms and everything, but I'm sure that somebody in there went, it's time, move it along. Yeah. Charlie Gibson left before his time, you know. I mean, all these. I mean, I'm talking about men here. I mean, if you get to women, I'm sure the grievance level is twice that.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not as pretty as you used to be, right? It's all that stuff. You know, and it's like, no, that was not why they were there. I didn't think.
It's not supposed to be why, but
I didn't think. I thought.
I mean, it's a big part.
But I will say that there's these intangibles to television. It's like, oh, they were not a good pair, or they had no chemistry, or whatever it is, and some of that is true. Some of these things you got to get, you know, got to get rid of people because and they look at the numbers don't lie. So the numbers are the numbers, and I think that's the thing in television. You go like, that's not ageism. You're not drawing an audience, you know. So.
Yeah. You talked about, you kind of alluded to the idea that you have some idea like we're placeholding, and there's something else that's going to come along.
Yeah.
What do you think that is?
And is it TV?
Yeah, it may not be TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are going to, at some point, grow tired of binging on these shows. I actually believe that that's coming. I can sort of feel it myself. Like
do you do that?
Yeah. And I have a sort of sense that we'll be looking for something different. And I think that we're going to have to double down on live. Just going to have to. Nobody cares. You think nobody cares anymore, but I got to tell you, the sporting events, the news, the whatever, I think that's the stuff that we're going to have to figure out a way to cover differently in a way that's more dynamic. And I don't have an answer because I'm too damn old. But I do believe that you can't get rid of what the networks do. There's nobody there to replace it.
Right.
So, you know, and I noticed that, you know, Netflix and a few of these others they're doing live events. There was like a live, you know, Chris Rock concert. Well, that's not a live event to me. I don't care about that. I don't have to watch the Chris Rock concert live. Doesn't mean anything.
Right, you can watch it on replay.
Yeah, that's not. It's not the same thing.
It goes back to sporting events and breaking news.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And things that matter that I don't want to stream later because it's either immediate or it doesn't matter.
About as far as I can wait is like when I watch golf on the weekends. If I'm like a half hour behind or something, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like I DVR it.
Right.
But if I get too far behind, I know that I'm going to get an alert. I don't know. Kepka's won again or something, and that's going to ruin the whole thing for me.
Right.
So I have to sort of stay on top of it. I think that's the solution, but I don't exactly know. I think we have to cover news differently. I think we have to somehow it's going to have to be. It can't just be punditry. It's got to be something else.
Well, I do think the advent of cable and the blurring of this line between commentator and opinion and news.
Yeah.
We've blurred this line terribly, and I really like that to be a very sharp, broad, unbreachable line, because I grew up in a journalism side of that.
I would like it too. You know, I was reading today. I have a lot of friends who work at News Nation, and the Cuomo. I have got a Cuomo show, and I have a lot of people, a lot of my friends who worked on The View are now at that show, and I watch that show, and I think, okay, there's something kind of middle of the road. There's a centrist point of view here that they're not doing what everyone else is doing, and it appears to be growing. So I would like to see something like that happen, because, you know, obviously CNN's taking it on the chin. And you know, I don't I don't have any solutions because I'm not in this game anymore. But I do believe that most people are in the middle somewhere. We're center right or we're center left. I believe that's where the audience
I
is.
saw a statistic today that the independents outnumber both sides combined. So that's a big middle. And I don't think we're appealing to the middle very much.
But maybe local is. Maybe there's such a backlash to the national that we've all been dealing with over the last 6 or 7 years, that people are coming back into the local, and it's going to become more important. I certainly think it is. When I look for news, that's where I'm going now, is local.
Yeah, but I also worry about this as a local broadcaster. We get painted by a very broad brush, and people assume that we have a view left or right.
Fake weather.
Fake weather. Hey, if I told you last year in June it would be 86 yesterday, you wouldn't have believed me.
God, you're still hammering on that.
I am. Yeah. So, no, it's very difficult. We've entered a kind of a phase where people want to distrust journalists rather than trust them.
Yes.
And I think it's a dangerous place to be. And part of that, again, goes back to this blurring of the line where people say, oh, you know, I get my news from Sean Hannity. You're not getting news from Sean Hannity. I'm not picking on one side or the other.
Yeah. Or Rachel Maddow.
Or Rachel Maddow. Those are not news programs.
That's exactly right.
Those are commentary programs with a specific point of view.
Yeah.
And it's a very dangerous place.
Something happened.
Firebirds just scored.
Firebirds. Go Firebirds. This is hockey, yes?
This is hockey.
All right, fine.
The thing on ice?
Yeah, okay, got it.
Figure skating.
You know, I worked with David Hartman and Charlie Gibson for years. I don't really know their politics. And I worked with them like, you know, where we like sat around and had drinks and into the night kind of stuff. Don't really, you know. I generally got a sense they were kind of middle of the road, a little right or a little left. But that was kind of it.
Yeah.
You know? I didn't get the sense that they couldn't tell me a straight story if they heard it. You know what I mean? Like they would go like, oh, that doesn't fit my ideology. I think I'm going to make up something here.
Well, the other thing I worry about is people are so selective about what they watch, and there are so many choices, and you can watch on so many platforms. You want to hear the thing that makes you feel good about what you believe. Mm-hmm. No one really wants to be challenged.
Yeah.
You get a lot of people who are listening to one side or the other simply because it coincides with what they already thought.
Well, that's exactly how their social media works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody they're listening to already agrees with them.
What do you think about the impact of social media? And we were just talking about how The View gets mentioned so frequently on social media now. What is the impact on social media on broadcast programming?
Well, I do think you're looking for clicks. You know, I think that's part of it, and that's how you're monetizing things now, which is probably not great. But I don't, you know, how that saves television in the end probably doesn't.
Yeah.
You know, probably not enough money there.
All right, I will tell you this story. When I first started dating my wife, we have 2 young kids. Her kids were her first marriage. I watched the way they watched television.
Yeah.
And they were 6 and 10. Mm-hmm. And I continue to watch the way they watch television. They don't care at all about live broadcasts.
Right.
They're 0% impressed that I'm on a live newscast.
Right.
They were watching Disney shows from 8 years ago because that's what they love.
Yeah.
They stream everything.
Because they can watch anything they want to watch
anything
any
they
time
want,
of the day.
anytime, and if it's something that they really enjoyed, they'll watch it again and again. Now, I do that with Goodfellas and
Your weather broadcasts.
Oh, I love those. No, but it's really
Sort of sad at home alone with the big bottle of
God,
gin.
I'm good.
Yeah. Watching himself
Oh,
over
it's
and
hot.
over again.
forcing the dachshunds to no. Look, watch.
Look at this. This is from 2003.
I don't think you appreciated that.
This is the day it rained, boys.
This is the rainy day. Look at how I handle this.
So, but how to broadcast? I mean, how does a network? How does a guy like you, who produced great television, how do you overcome that and get these kids' attention back?
Well, here's what I'd say is that I watch television sort of the same way. My wife is like nudging me. You need to get your face out of the iPad and watch this. And also, like a month later, I'll say, there's a new show called blah, blah, blah. And she said, yeah, we watched that. We've seen that.
When was the last time you saw a commercial? Do you ever watch
I
commercials?
know. Well, that's part of the problem.
That's
is that,
it.
See, and that's why I tape like golf.
Yeah.
So I can roll through all those Callaway commercials and TaylorMade and just zip through it. So yeah, that's a big problem too, and they know that. That's why they have the playing through stuff where they have the commercial running while you can still watch golf, which I also zip through because I don't want to do that.
I do think that there's going to be more and more of that, where the commercial plays under or around or boxed into the live action so that people don't fast forward.
You see a lot of that now on the live broadcast where there's a commercial on the right side and a live on the left side.
Yeah, I was thinking the other day, I was watching, they've got this thing that they're trying to make it much more personal. So somewhere toward the end of a round, they'll corner Tyrrell Haddon or somebody walking up the fairway and says, so you've had a great day? And he goes, yeah. And sooner or later he's going to be, and how do you like my new shoes by
FootJoy?
By FootJoy. Because that's coming. Because that's part of the programming, right? And sooner or later that's going to happen.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody's got it. I want to bring something up because we've talked a lot about television. We've talked a lot about the impact that Bill's had on television, but there's something personal we haven't talked about. In my research, I found something called mancrushes.com.
I was young, I made it look money. What?
Mancrushes.com. This is a real thing, Bill.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You are rated number 81,024.
Wow.
Of the highest top celebrity crushes. 81,000 out of millions and millions and millions.
81,000.
Yeah, but that's way up at the top.
You couldn't name
of the list.
81,000 people that are famous.
Number one was Justin Bieber. There were 81,023 people
between
in between
me
you and Justin Bieber.
I can't believe that.
But
I'm
I
so
looked
much
for
more manly
Patrick.
than he is.
He wasn't on
More
mancrushers.com.
manly than.
Is that a real
This is our
thing?
first guest on Man.
Is this a real thing?
Real thing.
Have you vetted all of our guests?
By the way,
That
you're
website?
worth about $8 million according to the internet. I just thought
I
I'd tell
saw
you
that. I saw that I'm worth $8 million.
You are. Can I borrow a couple bucks?
No. Because that's just $8 million
That's
doesn't
how
go
you
as
got
far as
the
it
$8
used
million.
to.
That's
You
right.
don't
It just
loan
doesn't
it
go
out.
the way it used to. Yeah, it's not.
Been a lot of inflation. You used to be a banker. You know this.
That's why I
Randy.
got out. 'cause
It
I
is.
didn't understand.
That's. By the way, that's something very weird because, how would anybody know what anybody has? And you see that all the George Clooney is worth X. You know that's not true.
I Googled that about myself, and I discovered I was worth $5 million, which is fantastic.
That's really cool.
And I've told
Well,
my-
really, you're married to a divorce attorney, so you're worth $2.5 million.
I've told my bank that. I'm worth $5 million. I don't care what the balance is. I want to go back to...
So, by the way, look that up later. That's big.
I will.
Mancrushers.com.
I just want to know who's right below me and right above me. I'm just
You
curious.
need to Google it.
John White was right above you.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
No, he was well below
Thank you for taking the air out of that balloon.
Wow. You wrote a movie. You're a screenwriter.
Yeah.
And you wrote a movie that starred Ray Liotta.
Yeah. I love Ray. Got to meet him eventually.
You did not enjoy the movie, though.
I did not enjoy the movie. I thought that the rewrite was not good. I got sole writing credit because the director, who's actually a very good director named John Dahl, and he directs a lot of television. So if you've seen, what's the one, the Boston mob guy,
Ray Donovan.
Ray Donovan,
Yeah.
things like, he directs things like that. He directs really high profile things, and he's a very good director. And he did a rewrite on it, and he wanted a writer's credit, and we argued over it, and I sent it to the Writers Guild, and the Writers Guild said I got sole writing credit. And then I saw it, and I thought I should never have fought for that. I should never.
You didn't like the ending of the film.
I did not. I thought that the last act was just completely botched. Yeah, I did not like it. But, I got a movie made. It'll be the only movie probably I ever get made. And I thought that was nice. It was nice to have that experience.
But do you have more scripts? I mean,
I
you
have
must.
other things that I've written, but, I'm not actively in that. And it takes a lot of time. And I just, I'm too lazy. I'm out in the desert. I'm lazy and old.
Well, so besides podcasts in a bar in the desert now, what are you doing?
All right. Well, I do try to keep my hand in things, but if you see my name on a credit, it's probably because I have someone else is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So I try to help out friends. I only align myself with people I really know and love. Like I have a project now with Debbie Matenopoulos after all these years.
Wow.
Seems to be going okay. I am not going to be the one who spearheads it. It will be someone else. But I've been to the meetings, and if it all goes as planned, we will have a show on the air. And I say we loosely. They will have a show on the air, and I will help in any way I can.
Does the industry reach back out to you now?
No.
Not at all.
No.
So how do you find projects?
By the industry,
Well, I'm asking more, do they reach out to you to talk about what you did and what you think they should be doing?
no, of course not. Never.
You're never looked at as a mentor by anybody in the industry.
Never. It's not that kind of profession.
Television never does that.
No?
I can tell you that even at the small local level that I have worked.
Really?
That is
just too
not a thing.
competitive?
It is so based on youth and the next thing.
Yes. That was then. That's over. He's over. We're on to a new thing. He wouldn't even understand what we're trying to do here now. There's a lot of that in TV. And it's okay.
And yet in your mind, you think you've got something to offer, right?
I always think I have something to offer, but I'm not that offended. Really not.
The thing about that, though, and I'm offended for you.
That you're sitting here.
Yeah.
No,
Exactly.
I'm
Can you believe
delighted.
it? How the mighty have fallen at a little bar here.
Yeah, he's going to go home and he's going to pour a drink and he's going to say,
right.
Yeah, exactly.
"Sweetheart, you won't believe what I did today."
Not going to believe
Wow.
this one.
This is an all-new low.
Rock bottom today.
That guy who's been telling us it's hot every day,
Yeah.
It wasn't the bottom of the barrel. We were under the barrel. Now, the thing that bothers me about it is, like, you do really understand because you've gone through it in the trenches. Mm-hmm. It is about numbers and getting viewers, and you understand how to do that. And you did that consistently throughout your career. And you came up with, no one was doing what The View was doing.
Right.
And you and Barbara developed, created, invented that, and it's still relevant
Yes.
today.
and copied. Copied a lot.
Yeah, what the CBS tried to copy it with the talk, which, I mean, just a pure knockoff.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
Hard to
that
do.
one show, An Hour of Bullshit, and that just didn't last at all.
That was.
Yeah.
I think that's what we should rename this podcast.
An hour of bullshit.
An hour of bullshit.
Bullshit at Little Bar.
You know? It's got a ring.
I just want to thank you.
Sure. Happy to do it.
We spent some time together. I think I came over to your house and watched some college football. We played a little golf.
Right.
We've never had a conversation like this, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, because it's just fascinating, the time we spent together, and I was really happy to have you on Eye on the Desert to talk about Barbara after her passing.
Which I never really said, and I just want to say this. None of this would have happened without Barbara. This was all about Barbara, and how I, if you ever want to talk about it, how I came to be with Barbara and what that entailed was one of the great blessings of my life. and completely changed my life. All of a sudden, I was just no longer this struggling producer wondering why he was in New York and thinking about going back to Oklahoma and getting a job in the energy industry or something.
Well, and you started as a local news producer.
I started as a
He was
local
mopping
cameraman.
floors at KOCO or something.
TV. I was buffing and mopping the floors of the cleaning the prop room, and they would let you run the camera on the news shows in the evening. So I'd run the studio camera, and then I'd go back to buffing the floors. And and then I moved up to shoot film. Those days it was CP16s. You shoot film for the local news, and that was really exciting for me to work in a local news station in Oklahoma City with what I thought were the incredibly talented people, and I still feel this way about this little group of people in Oklahoma City, just an incredibly talented group of people, some of whom are still there. And that was what turned me on about television. That was the launching part for me, was being a cameraman.
It gets under your skin when you work in a newsroom environment.
Yeah.
It just gets under your skin. I started as a camera operator too, and so
you don't want to leave.
Yeah.
You know, they gave us a car and a camera, and then I'd get off at 7 o'clock in the evening, and people go out there at 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I'd be sitting on the car. I'm like, what are you doing here? It's like, no, could be something. It could be a fire or something.
I'm just going to stay here
I'm
until
just going
something
to hang
happens.
around. Somebody's going to shoot somebody sooner or later.
Well, this has been a joy and a true delight.
It really was exciting to have you here.
And
Pleasure to
actually,
be here. Thank you.
One of those moments where I think we delved into some pretty good information
I
too.
think we did. Mancrushes.com. That is the first reference
that's
to it
really
on
good.
this podcast.
That's the one part we're going to edit out. Unedited
That's the only
show, but
research I
that's
did.
out. On behalf of my co-host Randy Florence and our producer extraordinaire John McMullen and our guest Bill Geddie, thank you so much for spending some time with us at Little Bar. You're listening to Big Conversations Little Bar, and we'll be back again next week.
Thanks for listening to Big Conversations Little Bar. Join Randy and Patrick next time as we keep the conversation going right here on Big Conversations Little Bar.